Hi, this is Jonathan Mickles with the Strategic Multifamily Investing Podcast, and I have with me Mr. Adam LaBarr, and he's with the Active Duty Passive Income podcast and group, and we're going to talk to him today about where he comes from and about his experience in multifamily investing. So, Adam, you want to give us a little bit of your origin story? Tell us kind of how you got to multifamily investing.
Sure. So a little over 40 years ago, my parents met each other, and so honestly, I came about it accidentally, multifamily investing. So I'm a military guy by trade. I never was involved in any real estate, never involved in anything. I was a paycheck to paycheck kind of military guy back in the day. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, the government gives me a paycheck on the 1st and I have till the 15th to spend it all. So that's what I did. And then, so every paycheck would go that way. And, eventually you would think I would have figured it out as I kept getting older and older, and I never did. And then I ended up getting out of the military while I was in college. I got married, and then my wife had this thing called a savings account, and it baffled my mind, and I didn't know how do these things work? What is this? Why do you have money in there? Like, don't you know the government gives you more every 2 weeks? Like, it just,
so when did you go into the military? What age?
Right out of high school. I was I signed up when I was 16 years old, and then once I graduated, I was gone. Yep.
What branch of the military?
Air Force.
Okay.
Air Force guy. Yeah.
The smart guy.
That's right. That's right. Make it happen there.
And then you got out when did you get out?
I guess we're looking at somewhere around 12 years ago or so.
Okay.
10 years ago, 12 years ago. So when I got out, and then I got married. And it just, my wife was an absolute game changer for me. Like, it just, in like finance wise, like, yeah. I had no idea anything. Again, I looked at the savings account and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. This doesn't make any sense. And then I started to go, wait a minute, she might be onto something. And I started looking and researching. And then, I went full bore. I learned about everything you could, personal finance. I started to learn about the stock market, investing, IRAs, everything I could get my hands on.
But were you doing like Google searches? Did you, go to a class?
A little bit of everything. So, okay. I was still in college when I got married. So I started to look in classes at college that like for electives to be able to do that type of stuff, and getting involved in just self-study. I'm a researcher by nature anyways. Just that's what I do, is I like to research stuff. So I started really researching everything that I could about it. And then my wife was like, oh, you should look at real estate, because her parents had a house that they were renting out, and her grandmother has 2 houses that she rents out, and she was just like, hey, you should look at this real estate thing. And I was like, yeah, honey, let me go to the stock market. So yeah, that was a terrible idea. I lost. I don't
know what year. What year was that you decided to kind of make that pivot from the stock market? Was it like the 2002 era? Well, that was 20 years ago.
Oh, no. So I got away from the stock market somewhere around 2011.
So are you fully out of the stock market, or is just a good portion of your money is kind of directed towards real estate?
A majority of my money and almost all of my efforts is towards real estate now at this point. So I took everything out of the TSPs, working gone, and like the military version of an IRA, government, I should say, not just military, but like throwing it all out there. Like, it just, my return on investment comes in a lot better in real estate than it does in any of the stocks or anything like that. So
2 more quick questions. I'm sorry, I keep.
Yeah, no, please.
This is great, because I've talked to some younger folks that are in the military in their 20s or whatever, and one of the things that I recommend to them is, hey, if you're still single, go get you a 4-unit apartment building, live in 1 unit, and then have the other 3 units to basically pay for that, and have you living rent free, and then that way you can actually bank your paycheck, and whatever you're living. I think you get a living premium on top of that.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so that means you get a housing allowance. The VA loan allows you get 4 units, so you get 0 money down with a VA loan. So you have your cash on cash return is infinite, So like, it just, I literally maybe 3 hours ago got off of a call with a bunch of, I don't know, somewhere around 40 folks or so, a bunch of military folks, like trying to teach them about the VA loan. Not even folks inside of my active duty passive income community, just regular military folks that are trying to learn about all of this stuff. It's like, no, like, that is one of the issues that I've seen a lot with military folks is there's almost no reason the military should teach you finances, because
Yeah.
if Uncle Sugar can keep you relying on Uncle Sugar, like the same thing I was doing, right? Paycheck to
Yeah.
paycheck. The
Paycheck
first
to
and 15th,
paycheck.
they're going to give it to me. So Uncle Sugar says, keep on coming back. Go put it in the TSP. You're going to be great in 40 years.
Right.
That's 40
So,
years. Like,
but again, so if you're younger and you're listening, you're in the military, you're in a perfect spot. Go and house hack. That's what they call house hacking,
Yeah.
right? Just either you buy one big house and then you rent out the rooms, or again, if you're in a town where you have duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, I think your VA. There you go. Get the
military
book.
house hacking. We even wrote a book on it. Like, that's
I
how
see. I
important this
didn't
is.
even. I
That's how
didn't even
important
know.
this is.
I didn't even know. So again, if you want to, learn a little bit more about that, that's a nice little thick book. Please reach out to Adam and the active duty passive income community and make sure that you get that. Again, it makes sense. Now, the two questions that I went down that rabbit hole for.
Yeah.
When you rolled over your TSP, did you do like a self-directed, or were you just doing it into a regular IRA traditional form?
Neither. Take the hit. Taking the hit, have the cash.
Oh my God.
Because when I look at it and I go, all right, well, yeah, the hit is sucky, right? Like, it hurts, right? But the ability to take that money and immediately, so the one thing I don't like about throwing it into like a self-directed or anything, now you have like a tax shelter paying for a tax shelter, and you kind of lose some of the abilities for the tax shelter, right? So real estate is a good tax shelter in and of itself. So I'd rather use that cash, put it towards a deal, take my depreciation, take all of my taxes that way, and then I end up making better off than I would putting in a self-directed IRA. But that is not financial advice. That is just Adam talking about his personal opinion. So
exactly. These are all of our personal opinions.
Different.
There you go. We are not lawyers. We're not CPAs. And also, too, if you're going to be doing syndications, which we'll get into in a minute, where you're pulling people together to kind of take their money to go and put as a down payment and then get a loan, Fannie Freddie type loan for an apartment building, generally you can't do that with, self-directed funds. It becomes like a tenant in common, and it can happen, but again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, but I get what you're saying. So
there's ways to do it with like the EQRP and a couple other different ways, but yeah, it's, you have to be careful with how you do it. It's got to be directed properly. And if you're the one that owns the IRA or the self-directed IRA or whatever it is, then, you have to, you can't really take the dividends on it. You can't really, it goes back into that, and that's it. So that's why I was like, nah, I want the money myself. I'll take care of that. Thanks.
Yeah, you'll take the income cash flow. Now, the other question was, were you investing when you took that out? Were you investing in single family homes out the gate, or were you moving into apartment buildings or duplexes, triplexes?
So I've bought one single family house my entire life. It was a house I lived in, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that. But the first investment property I bought was a 62 unit property in Tennessee.
Wow.
And it was a JV deal that a couple of partners and I did together. I was living in Japan at the time when I bought it too. So like it was, so for all the people out there who say, well, there's nothing in my area. Well, I lived in Japan and bought a apartment building in Tennessee. So it's possible. You just have to find the right team and the right boots on the ground, the right understanding. So,
how did you find that team? And just for those that are out there,
Yeah. So what I found was I needed to find a group of people that were like-minded, like-hearted, that understood, like we all had the same goal. So I ended up getting into a mastermind in that sense. And that's where I went. So I was educating myself for probably 3 years before I ever actually pulled the trigger on anything. And then I got into a group. It was a Jake and Gino group, and we got nothing but great things to say about them. And I had a really good time in their program and still do.
Jake and Gino are the
Wheelbarrow Profits. So they've got a podcast. They've got a community, the whole 9 yards. So they're a fantastic couple of guys. And when I was in that group, I found some folks that I got along with really well. They had a deal. They were on the ground. And we partnered up and took the deal down. So it worked out really well for me. And so for me, that's one of the things I always suggest to people, like get around like-minded investors, and then own that, right? Like a lot of people, especially when I'm talking to military folks, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a soldier and this and that. And, I'm thinking about being a real estate investor. I'm like, no. You're a real estate investor who happens to be a soldier. Like you have to own that. Like that's you. And then when I started getting around those people, that's what I started feeling like, no, I am an investor. It's not, this is what I am. And now, well over 300 doors later, I'm an investor. Like this is what I do. I love it.
Wow. So was it difficult? Well, it wasn't difficult because you just mentioned it. The question that I was going to ask you, was it difficult to convince your spouse, but your spouse told you that you should take a look at this real estate thing. So
Yeah,
I mean, that
it's
helped,
I will say it helped, yes, but she had no idea that what she unleashed, because when I told her, I said, "Hey, guess what? We're going to go buy apartment buildings." And thank the good Lord above, she was
Yeah.
sitting down, because she would have probably fallen over, because she was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! What do you mean apartments?" Like,
Right.
well,
Right.
yeah. And then I started going through the whole process about why and how I broke down our future and where this is all going to go and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And so it took a little bit of convincing at that point, because like that's a huge mental jump for a lot of people, to
It is.
go, yeah, let's buy a single family house, to now we're going to go buy a whole apartment building. Like, that's a big mental jump. And I understand that that's tough, which is why it took me 3 years to finally make that
But why
decision.
did
But
you get into apartments? Because, some people say, look, I'm going to stay in the single family game and I've
mhm,
got 20, 30, I've got a portfolio of single family homes. But
yeah,
why make the switch? You made that one single family home
yeah.
purchase and now you went straight to apartment buildings. Why did you do that?
So when I was, so like I said, I like to analyze things. I like to look at things. And so I broke down, where do I want my future to be? Like, what kind of passive income do I want? What kind of, things do I want for my family? And I said, well, okay, well, if I get X amount of dollars per door
Yeah.
in passive income, where's that going to bring? And then I realized that's a whole lot of single family houses. And then I started to realize, all right, well, if I JV some deals, syndicate some deals, kind of work through apartments, that's eventually where my brain led me. And I said, well, this is going to make that jump a little bit easier. I'm not saying that it's like, boom, now I'm there, like, it's still a lot of work that goes into it, but you can get that in much fewer amount of properties. And when you buy a 100-unit property, it is basically the same amount of work, if not a little bit easier, than buying a single family house as an investment. So
Yeah.
if I'm going to do the same amount of work, I might as well go with something bigger.
So there's a couple things that you said that are really, really key. And I understood it. I heard it. I know what you're saying. But I don't think somebody else may have heard it. Number one, he sat down and he looked at what he was interested in making, right? You should know what your number is, right? I know what my number is. He knows what his number is. And then he broke it down into a per door sort of situation or per home situation. I'd like to make
Mm-hmm.
200, 300, dollars per door. And ultimately that gets me to X amount of dollars per month to X amount of dollars per year. And this is what I actually am making. And he recognized, hey, that's going to be a lot of houses. And for some
Mm-hmm.
of you, that's going to be the case. That's a lot of houses for you to be able to maintain. It's a lot of people say a lot of roofs. So if you figure that out first, you may find out that going multifamily is going to be a lot easier and a lot quicker. And
Mm-hmm.
also, to your point, in terms of it being a lot easier to do a little bit sometimes in the multifamily space. I remember working as a realtor with investors and working with other realtors where people were wanting to buy houses in the name of an LLC. And it was, oh, it's a shell corporation. That's really a bad thing. Again, we're not attorneys, not
Mm-hmm.
accountants, but that generally is how investors want to purchase a home. They want to purchase in the name of an LLC, and a lot of times, a lot of the lenders who are there want it in an LLC as well, because if something should happen, it's easier for them to go after an entity than a person, right? And be able to foreclose. At least that's what I've heard. I've understood. That's what people have told me that are in that legal space. Where if you're buying an apartment building with a group of people, first of all, you've got the group of people, and then secondly, it automatically is going to be in some sort of other entity other
Mm-hmm.
than in your own personal name. So that's one way that it could be actually a little bit easier in terms of buying apartment buildings. Just wanted
Yeah.
to highlight a couple of those things that you said. I'm sorry, you wanted to
No,
say
you're
something
good.
else?
So there are multiple things on that. All of
Sure.
that very much accurate. So, like, you mentioned the roofs part. There's a reason that people say that it's one roof, right? Because I've got 62 doors, that very first property, under 3 roofs. Well, if I get a leak, I'm fixing one roof. Where if I have a house or 62 houses, I've got 62 roofs all over, all of which may be leaking right now.
Yeah.
So, my life gets a lot easier. It's a lot easier to scale. I don't, if I have to hire a property manager, which I highly recommend folks do,
Yeah.
I'm looking at 8 to 10% as opposed to 4%. The scale is so much easier on a multifamily. And then, like you said, like with the LLCs, if you're going to do like a portfolio of them, you might be able to pull it off in an LLC. But as you're buying 1, 2, 3, 4, it makes it a little harder, to really pull that off. But I've got all of my properties are in their own LLCs. I've got multiple LLCs that own different sections of different, so I mean,
Right.
the legal protection is a lot easier there as well for myself. Somebody trips and falls, they're not coming after any of my personal stuff, because you're good luck finding it, right? Like you're going through the LLC instead of coming after me. And then like they're sheltered in each one of those different LLCs. So it's a beautiful thing.
And you're having your meetings at all times, because most of the times that you're in syndications, you're going to be meeting or sending out updates to the investors. And so those that are in the GP side, that means the general partnership side, which generally is the management side, they meet often. And so they do things that are necessary in order to ensure that the LLC is viable and that it doesn't, it's not penetrable.
And if you have a good lawyer, they'll take care of all that as well. They'll help you out and say, hey, have you done this? Check. And they take care of all of it. So that's hire the right people, hire the experts to do the thing that experts do. So,
and I'm not being paid to say this, but Mark Kohler, I would recommend, out of Utah. They do a good job of making sure that your LLC is okay. So they have some, specific things that are, quick and dirty that they can work with you on and make sure that happens. So find yourself a good lawyer. Again, I'm not being paid by Mark Kohler or his team. It's just that I that came to mind when it came to asset protection. Asset protection, when we say asset protection, we're talking about the protection of not only your investment, right, as an apartment building, but also as your own home, your own family, your own whatever, so that somebody is, I think Al Yellow, I think is the name. I think he also has a course out there as well. You may want to go and do some research on that. Again, I'm not being paid by him, just recommending a couple of things. Something else that you mentioned, and we keep going back and forth, but this is good.
It's good. Yeah,
this is good stuff. Property management, and you mentioned that you recommended people get a property manager. I know some people are very much, I want to know everything. I want my hands on everything. Why get a property manager? Help me understand that.
So there's multiple reasons I say that. One, I don't want to deal with tenants, toilets, and trash. I don't want to deal with any of that. I want my property manager to deal with it. I want to deal with acquisitions. I want to deal with now when I'm slowing down acquisitions a little bit, and I've got more, so I'm a little spread out in my properties. I've got, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana. So I'm spread out a little bit, but if I start to focus in a little bit more into one area instead, maybe I'll own my own property management company. Right. And that way I've got all the control over it. I've got all of that. It's an extra source of income. It's a little bit easier to manage. But the property management takes care of all that stuff. I don't want a phone call in the middle of the night. My property manager gets that. I don't want to have to vet 3 different companies to make sure that I'm getting the right price for the roof. I want my property management company to take care of that. I want to be able to have weekly calls with my property management team. Say, all right, good. Where are my numbers? Where, what have we spent money on this time? How many people have come and visit the property? Where's our vacancy at? And then understand all of that on a weekly basis so that I can go, gotcha, check, we're doing right. Or, why is our vacancy taking a hit right now? What's going on? Is it, is it COVID? Is that what's going on with it? Or is it, actually our ad for Facebook stopped last week, so we have less people walking in, whatever it is. They're managing all of that, and I'm paying them to do it so that I can focus on acquisitions, and they get to handle all of the hassles. And you just call me if it's going to be a large expense, and that's all I'm going with.
And so for everybody else who's listening, who may be new, that weekly meeting that Adam is having with the property management team, it goes into the asset management and asset protection, asset management aspect of apartment investing. And that's the side that I think, you want to be on, because again, if you have property managers who are dealing with the day-to-day, you can deal with the week-to-week and the month-to-month, and making sure that you're doing investor relations, going back to your investors and reporting on how the property is doing. So there's a lot of different moving parts here. Real soon, we'll put out a kind of like a white paper on, for somebody who is a project manager like myself, who kind of needs to know systems and, used to be a business analyst. You want to know where all the blocks are and the moving pieces. So we'll probably have something out there like that. Okay. So you are now in the industry. You're syndicating right now. How many units do you have?
Oh, I think it's somewhere around 360 or so, somewhere around there, 350 doors. Yep.
Do you have a specific number, or is it the dollar number that is kind of
Uh,
where enough is.
so I initially, the way I backtracked it for like really large view was 4,000 doors is where I'd like to be at. There's a lot that went into that thought process. Some of it was
Mhm.
probably some would call arrogance, right? But some of it is math, where I want to be, what I want to be looking at. My goals are to, when it's time for me to take a vacation, I'm gone. It's not, let me see if there's time. And no, I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm a pilot, so I like to jump in a plane and fly somewhere. So I'm going to jump in a plane and fly somewhere. Like, come on, family, let's go. I'm going
Yeah.
somewhere just because I want to. So there's a lot involved with that. And then 4,000 just seems like a nice round number that'll work well for me. So that's kind of the goal and where I'm headed. So
So 4,000 is still the number for you.
yep, yeah, yeah.
Got it. Well, we're going to
Other than when I
hopefully.
just erased my whiteboard, it was up there. I erased it for a big Facebook Live thing I did, so I've got to write it all back up there again. But yeah, 4,000
Well,
doors, and I'll write it every time I buy a new property. I'll cross out the other one and write down the next number. So
wow. Well, I'm hoping that we can help you with that. Potentially partnering in some of the things that we're doing
happy to
right
do it.
now. So, you've mentioned the 4 places that you're in. Could you state those MSAs again?
Yeah, so I've got East Tennessee, a little bit north of Knoxville is where that property's at. I've got one in Louisville, Kentucky that I'm a passive on. I've got 2 up in Indianapolis MSA. So.
Okay. And then where are you looking right now? What's hot for you?
Well, it seems like everybody thinks Carolinas are hot, but that's where I'm kind of looking right now there and in Florida. So I know that definitely makes you happy. The Carolinas are good. I still love Tennessee because I love landlord tenant laws are friendly.
Okay.
Taxes are friendly, that type of stuff. So I look at um, landlord tenant laws that are favorable towards the landlord, because this is a business. We need to be smart with our business and make sure that the only way we can keep a business up and running is with income. So if you're in a state like California, good luck, 6-7 months of somebody living in your place rent free, you know what I mean, because you're going through the process of making it happen. So Florida and the Carolinas are 2 places I'd like, but I'm definitely still in the Indy market. I underwrote a couple properties for up there recently, and we'll be submitting some offers. No kidding, this week I'll probably have 2 offers in for some properties up there. So
Cool. Let's see. I got 2 more things, and then I'll let you know because we're knocking it out of time. But
yeah,
thank you so
yeah.
much. This has been really, really good. So, COVID-19 hit us in May of 2020. So,
Mm-hmm.
how did that impact your business, and where do you see us going from here? Given that, at least from what we understand, COVID's going to be around for another year or so.
Yeah. So it was one of those things. So we, around February timeframe when the talk was happening, we started to kind of discuss it with ourselves. Excuse me. And then March, it started to really
Mm-hmm.
show its teeth a little bit to try to help us figure that out. So it was conversation with the property manager like crazy. What are your guys' plans? Where are we at with this? What are you doing for keeping our tenants safe? What are you doing to get with more electronic applications? How are we making sure that we're going to be collecting rent? So it was just a lot of communication with them. And then we also had to have a lot of communication with our investors. We didn't know where COVID was going to go. Our vacancy is going to go. The unemployment was going up like crazy. Our vacancy is going to be going down like crazy as well. Are we going to be having issues with this? Are we going to be losing a bunch of money? So, we talked to the investors and said, hey, this is our plan. We're not going to be doing any distributions. We're going to be saving all of our capital. We're going to slow down on any rehab that we were planning on doing. We didn't, but we had playgrounds we wanted to buy for one property. We weren't going to do that. We're putting all of our major purchases on hold. It's going to be a maintain, not a build up. So that's what we did. We put everything on hold. Said, all right, let's see how this fares. And honestly, so we did pretty well across the board, and still are doing pretty well across the board. There's a couple hiccups here and there, like when the CDC came out, was like, oh, nobody can get evicted. People just read that and stopped paying rent, and they're like, no, you got to read 3 bullet points down. You still have to pay rent, and you can get evicted for other things. So it was just more communication with our property management team for them to communicate more with the tenants. So there's a lot more involved in all of that. It just opened up communication to help us really understand where it's at.
So then, in terms of collections, where are you right now? Because a lot of people thought that collections were going to be heard after July 31st, when the subsidies went away. But where are you guys right now in terms of collections?
Yeah, so we're actually doing pretty well. We in July we hit 100% occupancy on one of our properties,
Wow.
which was pretty impressive. We started raising the rent and still got people coming in.
Wow.
Part of that I think was is a little fear based. People aren't sure what to do, so they're just like, I just need somewhere now. I'm going to stabilize it and make sure I'm solid. But then even after the $600 a week went away, so what we had a lot of communication again with our property management team. So they were putting incentives out. Hey, there's going to be a raffle for everybody who pays their rent on time. We're going to have a raffle for a gift card, so that everybody's name go in it. A Facebook post, here I'm holding my gift card, I'm so excited, these types of things. So to motivate people to still kind of, hey, we still want you to pay your rent. We still want you to be taken care of. And collections, honestly, we've had a little bit more on of bad debt in there, just trying to get people to pay, which was expected. But still, our economic occupancy has been over 90%. We haven't really had any issues there. I think there was 1 month we were at about 87%, somewhere around there on one property. I've got another property that is, it's not even fully occupied yet. It's been a big rehab property, but so that one's a little bit more of an anomaly, harder to really judge. But we were doing well there as well without much of an issue. So we took a little bit of a hit with like getting contracting crews on site and stuff like that. But for the most part, is as long as you take the hit on the chin, keep moving. Hits are going to come, so don't let them surprise you. Move on and go.
So what do you think about the future? I mean, that's a real good recap, and glad that things are going well for you guys, now. But I mean, the future, where do you still see, the 90 some, economic occupancy, or are you,
well, here we are, 2 weeks out from election, so I would like to withhold my desire to answer that question.
Understood. No worries.
I don't foresee it being bad. I don't foresee it going terrible, because people still need a place to live. People still understand there's that going on. While I'm not thrilled with what I'm looking at with the potential of what could happen, as long as you stay in a good cash position, you can weather it, right? So like there was a lot of people the last few years that have been over paying for properties. And if we take a dip next year, which we probably will, like I totally foresee us next year taking a dip, and I'm like, if you are over leveraged, it's going to hurt. If you are undercapitalized, it is going to hurt. So we've got well more than a regular reserve pile set up for our properties, and we want to keep it that way. And we have a lot of equity in other properties, and we want to keep it that way, because that's going to be harder to come by. Like getting rent collections is going to be harder to come by. If multifamily takes a larger hit this time, similar to what single family did in 2008, then you're going to be looking at a hard time for all those people who are trying to refi, for all this, like it's going to hurt. So if you have the cash to be able to make that happen, then that's where you need to be.
Got it. And I'm going to say, because there was something else I was going to say. I'll just say, pause on that one. Okay. So thank you so much for that. So this last question is a segment that I'm adding on to my podcast now and asking all of my guests. I've been doing some thinking and going round and around with some of my other friends about our name Red Boot LLC and where it came from. And somebody said, well, you ought to talk about giving them the boot. I'm like, huh? I mean, generally that's like a negative thing, right? Where, somebody's losing, a loved one or whatever, you're kicking your loved one to the curb, or you're getting kicked from the job and all that kind of good stuff. But we're gonna take over that phrase and make it a good thing. Where we're talking about, giving somebody the prod. I mean, I know I've had to have that, in the past in getting my business together. And so for those who are interested in, whether they're seasoned or, newbie, either way you want to go here, how would you give somebody the boot? So let's give them the boot.
All right, so kick them in the pants and make them work. Is that what you're telling me to do? All right.
Kicking them in the pants, making them work, or just a gentle nudge, loving.
Oh, no, we don't do gentle nudges. Remember, I was a prior military guy. It's the gentle nudges. There you go. That's not what we do, right?
There you go.
Look, nobody, we talk about it a lot. You don't get experience until you go and do it, right? You don't get good at this till you go and do it. Find yourself a group of like-minded individuals who are like-minded, like-hearted, who have the same motivation as you, have the same desire as you, the same drive as you. You are the 5 people you hang around with most. So if you are surrounding yourself with people who like to sit on the couch, put their feet up on the table and eat their pizza while watching Netflix, that's what you're going to do. If
Yeah.
the 5 people you are around enjoy to do nothing but talk sports and drink beer, that's what you're going to do. If
Yeah.
the 5 people you're around are multifamily investors who are motivated in their financial life or motivated in their family life, who are wanting to push forward, that's what you're going to do. So
Yeah.
find yourself a group of people. That doesn't mean you have to get rid of your old friends.
Right.
That means you have to reframe your mind, reframe yourself so that you are around the right people. Hang out with other folks once in a while.
Yeah.
But if you really want to move forward, get off your couch, cancel your cable, cancel your Netflix, go and get educated, find somewhere, because you're just going to go right back to it again if it's sitting out there. So find some groups to get involved with, whether it's a RIO, whether it's a, like I did with the multifamily folks over at Jacob Gino, whether it's if you're military, coming over to my community active duty passive income with a bunch of like-minded folks that want to do this. Find a coach, right? I do coaching. I do financial coaching. I do real estate coaching. I do all that stuff. So find a coach that you're on a call with, a couple times a month that's really motivating you, pushing you forward. Stop being a bum. With education comes confidence. With confidence comes action. Make it happen.
Wow. There's a lot there. I could say a lot more, but you've summed it up. Thank you so much, Adam LaBarr, for giving us a call from the active duty passive income community. Listen, if you are interested in getting to learn more, we'll make sure that we have Adam's contact information. Actually, what is the best way for people to get in contact with you, Adam?
So my email is adam@activedutypassiveincome.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Adam LaBarr. I'm really the only Adam LaBarr on there. There may be one other one, but you'll find me. It's pretty easy. So LinkedIn, Facebook, email address is probably the easiest. So.
Good. This has been such an enjoyable interview, and I want to say thank you to you and your community. And if there's anything that we can do here at Red Boot LLC, please feel free to let us know. And again, for everybody else, you've just received a boot from Adam LaBarr. Thank you again,
so much,
Adam.
Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.